matter who owns Cadbury's?
I think it does. You know, I spent most of my career arguing that it doesn't matter who owns British industry. But of course, nowadays, I think industry and politics are so closely combined. In other words, a country's political power partly depends on its economic power. And I think it does matter, you know, where the profits are repatriated to, where the research and development is done, where the decisions are made. I think it does.
So if it matters, should the government do something?
Doesn't have any power to do anything.
No, but should it take the power? Doesn't have any power because it didn't want the power. I mean, I'm not quite sure what you're saying, because my electricity, I think, comes from a French company. My gas comes from a German company. So why should I care if the chocolate comes from an American company?
No, I don't think you should care particularly about chocolate. And by the way, remember, this is a company that makes chocolate that the European Union says can't be called chocolate because it doesn't have enough cocoa in it, being taken over by a company that makes cheese that I don't associate with cheese. So, you know, I'm not particularly worried personally about this merger. Right. What I'm talking about is
the broader issue.
The broader issue. You see, I would agree with you. I don't think it matters about your gas or your electricity. But after a while, I think it does matter if it's your gas and your electricity and your motor cars and your aircraft and your chocolate and everything.
Diane, why did a Labour government, or as Neil Kinnock would have said, a Labour government, why did it allow the Royal Bank of Scotland to part fund the takeover of Cadbury, the taxpayer-owned Royal Bank of Scotland?
Well, because although we largely own it, we have, for reasons which I'm not sure about, forsworn actually having any say whatsoever in what it does.
Well, I can tell you why.
All
because
right.
if we were seen, we, the British government,
Yeah.
I mean, if Britain, we the taxpayer through the government, was seen to run the bank,
Yeah.
all the debt it currently has would have to show on the government's books.
Yeah.
And I think it's already got enough debt.
But just one thing on these mega mergers. One of the arguments against them is, are they actually in the long-term benefits of anybody, except the advisors on both sides, the investment banks, the lawyers and consultants who make millions?
Is there a sense, too, that it's probably easier to take over it's certainly easier to take over a British company than a German or a French company.
Or a Japanese.
Or a Japanese company, and maybe even an American company. Is there a sense that we're an easy take?
I'm sure we are. I mean, under Conservative and Labour governments, we have really believed in economic liberalism. We've largely believed in free trade, and we've certainly believed in free flows of investment. And of course, that is the way that Britain has made its fortune over many decades. So it is quite difficult, without being hypocritical, to argue against the takeover of British industry when, we were content to run, India, South America, and goodness knows how many other places.
What's happened is, what we've done is we've hollowed out our industrial base. We're now disproportionately dependent on financial services, and that's why this crash has hit us so hard.
I understand that, but shouldn't we just remind ourselves that Cadbury owned, or still owns, Wrigley Spearmint Gum, a hugely iconic American name, and Dr. Pepper, which is a hugely iconic American drink. So should it really matter that the Americans are going to own our chocolate Easter egg?
Because Kraft has had to borrow it's leveraged itself to buy it, and the only way it'll make that money back is by sacking people.
Well, it's interesting that Warren Buffett is against the deal, and the markets have just downgraded Kraft's credit to the lowest level it could be. So it may not yet be. There's just a tincture that it may not be quite a done deal. Let's move on. We've had very bad inflation, better unemployment. What's happening in the economy?